Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I am Ethan.
And I am Bryan.
And welcome to our WandaVision Episode 4 podcast. Before we begin, we'd like you to subscribe to our channel so you can keep up to date with all of our WandaVision review and synopsis videos. You can watch WandaVision exclusively on Disney+. I think you already know that because you're watching our video here. And if you haven't watched the actual episode yet, get out now. Because this is going to be a spoiler alert episode here. Correct?
Yes.
Yes. So yes, go watch WandaVision at least up to episode 4, then come back to this video and watch it. Because I don't know why you're still here. Alrighty then, you ready to get into the episode, Bryan?
Oh, yes.
Alrighty, so where do we start?
Well, we start in a hospital where we see people are getting snapped back.
Right, so now I think we can confirm now that WandaVision takes place after Endgame.
Yes, and I saw something that I don't know if it's exactly true because articles sometimes they're just like, "Hey, give us clicks."
Right.
But I did see something that it might even be that it might take place in between Endgame and Far From Home.
Maybe, because
So
Far From Home was kind of like the epilogue of Phase 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah. So we'll see. Well, technically this episode does take place right at near the end of Endgame, actually, because remember the blip is the snap that Hulk did, which brought everybody back.
Yeah. So technically, it is during Endgame.
Yeah. Well, at least this part. It's kind of difficult to explain, so let's try to explain it a bit better. Okay. So, the reason why we start out at a hospital, pay attention to the aspect ratios, guys. We're back into a 16:9 ratio, which means we're back in the real world. So, basically, they're trying to give us, because at the beginning of each episode before they play the Marvel role, is they do a previously on WandaVision, and they just show key points of the previous episodes, which the next episode will bring focus to more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so basically, how that one played out, they're showing focus on Geraldine, because what happened to her in the last episode, she got thrown out of the pocket dimension and back into the real world.
Yep.
And so basically, since they said previous on WandaVision why it's focusing on Geraldine is to focus more on her backstory and why she's here. And so part of her backstory is her real name is not Geraldine.
Nope. It is Monica.
Santa Monica? What?
Yeah. It's Monica Rambeau.
Yes, which
No, she is not related to Sylvester Stallone.
I know it's been a while since we've seen a Marvel movie, gang, but Monica Rambeau is the daughter of Maria Rambeau, who was a character in Captain Marvel. And if you don't remember Captain Marvel, that took place in the mid-90s.
Yep.
Yeah, so Monica was a little kid. She's obviously played by different actors now, obviously. Obviously, but yeah, no, they brought her back, and as we'll get into it, they brought back a lot of characters from previous MCU films.
Yeah.
So yeah, we start off with Monica Rambeau in some undesignated hospital. Basically, the Hulk basically did his blip snap, which brought everybody that back to life after Thanos had snapped it. And you're better explaining this, Bryan.
Yeah, so everyone just gets blipped back, and Monica is trying to find her mom because
Maria Rambeau.
Her mom is in the hospital. Maria was in the hospital, as we find out through this scene, and Monica was there right by her side after she had just gotten out of surgery for cancer. Now, for those of you who don't remember, we are technically in the year 2020. Three?
Yeah.
Because there is a 5-year time jump. So she has been gone for 5 years. Within those 5 years, 2 years after Maria's surgery, the cancer came back, and she died. Monica learns this in the span of about 10 seconds from a nurse that is also at the hospital that worked on Monica's mom. So we get a whole bunch of exposition in like 15 seconds.
Right.
And so we now know that Monica is now momless, sadly.
Yeah. And then I think that is when the Marvel role plays, and then we cut. I don't know how far into the future, but we cut back to. I
believe it's I believe the director said that it was it was a couple weeks.
Oh really?
Yeah. I believe he said it was about a couple weeks or so. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
Alrighty then. So after a couple weeks, we cut to, Sword headquarters. What you were saying last week.
Yeah. Which stands for Sentient Weapons Observation and Response.
Division.
Division. That's what it is. Division.
Gotcha.
And so basically what that means is, sentient weapons. So weapons that have sentience. So that could be people, androids. So like Ultron is a sentient weapon technically. Vision, Wanda.
So is Sword in this universe what you were saying last week? Is like a rebranded Shield?
No, it is not.
No.
Sword, as we find out through dialogue between Monica and the acting director of Sword, we learn that Sword was actually created from the ground up by Maria Rambeau.
Okay.
So here's the one thing I don't like about this.
Okay.
Is that this means that Sword has been around since roughly the mid to late 90s.
Yeah, I think this is what I was saying. Last part is like they're gonna have to find some BS excuse for them to introduce Sword into the MCU after like all of Phase 1, 2, and 3 has happened.
No, you see, it's they were just observing.
Yeah, just observing, gang. They didn't do anything. It's literally like Nick Fury and Captain Marvel saying, "Come when there's an emergency." Ergo, not an alien invasion. Ergo, not a robot uprising. Ergo, people start turning to dust, gang.
Yep. Gotta get them loopholes,
Yeah, so, I guess for that sake of consistency, it is kind of annoying. But I guess when it comes to the comic book world, it's par for the course. So just take it with a grain of salt, gang, and you'll be fine.
Yep.
Anyway, continuing on with the plot.
But in this scene, Monica is told by the acting director that she is basically grounded of sorts. So she's only on terrestrial missions, so no going into space. Dang it. And so what mission she is put on is a she is told it's a missing persons report in New Jersey. And so she heads out to Westview, New Jersey, where we meet another recurring character, James Woo.
Yes, his
or
name,
Jimmy Woo. It's Jimmy, isn't it?
His full name I have here is James E. Woo, who is the FBI agent that we all met back in 2018 in Ant-Man and the Wasp. What happens here in this scene?
We learn from here that Jimmy Woo has been talking with local police department, not from Westview, and it seems that people in the New Jersey area, and only in the New Jersey area, have no recollection of Westview, New Jersey, claiming that it's a town that shouldn't exist and doesn't exist, and that it just isn't there, even though they are standing right outside Westview.
Right. So I wonder how those guys see it, because the audience doesn't really get an idea, because the audience clearly sees Westview right there, and if these two other police officers don't see it, what is going on?
I feel like it's probably just a thing of like reality is making them not see it. Is the best way I can put it.
Perhaps,
like they just see like an open field, probably.
maybe, but that wasn't expressed in the CGI at all. If they're trying to convey that through the acting, I'm sorry that it needs more supplementary tech value to it than that. But anyways, this is just a nitpick, gang. It really has nothing to do with the overall plot significance.
But yeah, no, they see that only people in New Jersey have this selective amnesia of sorts of not knowing what Westview is, but people outside the Jersey area somehow are unaffected by its effects. We also learn that the town of Westview, the field around it, doesn't like visitors and doesn't want them, as we learn from James, as he says the town doesn't want him to explore.
Right.
And then they send in a sword drone, little high-tech sword drone, which then just disappears. Since the drone disappeared, it piqued Monica's interest, so she goes closer and she gets a closer look at the force field around Westview. And if you actually look very closely, you ever notice how like when you look at your like TV screen or like your phone screen, how you always see that little like rainbow effect?
Kind of. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, the force field that's around Westview, actually, if you look closely, has that same effect, almost as if you're looking at a TV screen.
Or not necessarily the TV screens nowadays. You don't necessarily kind of see that with like these modern flat screen TVs or phones. They're more reminiscent of a CRT TV, if you ever had one of those.
You know I've never had any of those, but I think I know what you're talking about.
A CRT TV is one of those big old cubic-looking boxes that were TV screens. Well, not just a screen. Literally, our TVs are screens. Now, back in the day, a TV was not just a screen, but it was also a giant console that went like 6 inches, like 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 feet. It's a cube, basically. It's a cube TV.
Mm-hmm. I did have one of those, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you ever got up close to the screen, which I have, I used to have a CRT TV until like 3 years ago. If you got really up close to it, and if you like, there's like a flash on the screen when you press the power off button, and you can look closely at its pixels, and you can see that rainbow effect, which is that sort of that same effect that you see with the border of this dimension here.
Yeah.
Because you know why? It's a classic sitcom, and what did you guys used to watch on your watch your classic sitcoms on? CRT TVs.
It's the truth.
Exactly. Anyways,
so Monica, it piques her interest, and so she starts touching it, and she gets sucked into it. And then we cut to another recurring character in an armored.
Before we go into that, she gets sucked in. That's how Monica kind of became Geraldine in the pocket dimension. And now we go on to.
Now we cut to the inside of like an armored vehicle, where we see 4 individuals. One of them should look familiar.
Yeah, this woman we haven't seen in a really, really long time, and probably a really long time because on your marathons you probably skipped this movie. So her name is Darcy Lewis. Last time we ever saw her was back in 2013 in Thor: The Dark World.
Yep.
Now, from my recollection, she was annoying in that movie. I really don't remember much about Dark World besides the significance of the Reality Stone, but that's pretty much
Yeah.
it. I don't really remember like the plot, why the good guys were good or the bad guys were bad or anything like that. I just remember
All I
the
remember
Reality
about
Stone.
Thor: The Dark World is that it had Thor, and Christopher Eccleston was the bad guy.
Right. Well, you might not even remember that. He's
Only
such
reason
a
I remember that is because he's a Time Lord.
oh yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't remember anything of her character whatsoever besides thinking that she's kind of annoying. And
The
so
most I remember from her character is from Thor, like the first one.
yeah.
And in that, she was a pretty funny character, at least in my opinion. I like her I like the comedy that they give her, her type of deliveries and stuff. How she's very serious with like hints of comedy behind what she says.
Right. But yeah, I kind of like had that recollection in my mind. I was like, oh, they're bringing her back for some reason. Okay.
Well, it
I
kind of
guess.
makes sense.
Well, explain why Sword had to bring in these four individuals. I don't get the significance of their significance either.
Her character actually kind of explains it. Not, and it's very subtle. And it's easily one of those things where if you're not paying attention, you can easily miss it. But basically, the reason why they bring in these four individuals, all from different backgrounds. For example, I mean, she's an astrophysicist, and then you have like a chemical engineer, and just like other backgrounds. The reason why Sword is bringing in all these different backgrounds is because Sword doesn't know what the heck they're dealing with.
Like you said earlier, Sword is more of a space observance program.
For the most part, yeah. In this, it looks like they're going a little bit more into like just anything that's abnormal.
Okay.
Especially since we've had all these huge threats over the years.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess basically there's no other task force left in the MC universe. And so yeah, and basically this one's more of a yeah, it is a terrestrial mission.
Yeah, and so we see that they have
since it's not their field of expertise, they send in these four people, right?
Yeah, not really. They brought them for their own opinions and like to see if they can contribute anything as to figuring out what's going on.
All right.
They don't really bring them in as test subjects, if you would.
Yeah.
But okay, I'm not gonna lie. I completely forgot her character's name.
Darcy.
Darcy.
Yeah.
I just know the actress. But Darcy finds out that using her techno things, she finds out that the wave of energy that surrounds Westview is radiating radiation, specifically CMBR, which is in small doses, it's not harmful. But because of the amount it's releasing, it could become harmful. It is the same radiation that was emitted when the Big Bang happened.
Oh. Whack already.
So it's leftover radiation from the Big Bang. Again, in small doses, it's not harmful because we're technically around it all the time. But in large doses, like the amount that this wave and this energy field is emitting can be harmful. And because again, it's supposed to be that's why it has background in it, is because it's background radiation. It's not supposed to be there all the time.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And Darcy also figures out that it's also sending TV signals, like radio signals. Because, you know, back in the day, you didn't have no channel flipper. No, you actually had to find the signals for your TVs.
Right. another funny thing is like back in the day, there's only like one channel you can watch, but now there's like 5,000 channels, but there's nothing to watch.
Yeah. Honestly, that's the truth.
Yeah.
And so that's what Darcy figures out. This is when we get our introduction to who will soon be the bee-man, I guess you could call him.
The beekeeper from episode 2.
The beekeeper from episode 2. We see him pre-beekeeper mode, where he's in some sort of like radiation suit with the sword logo, and they're about to send him down through the sewers and see if he can get into town through the underground sewers. And then this is when we cut back, and the sword personnel are all like, okay, give me infrared, give me satellite, give me like everything.
Right,
and they can't find anything.
Yeah, because after they figured out what was inside the pocket dimension was basically trying to mimic like the 50s, 60s, and then eventually 70s sitcom television. It's basically a TV world inside the pocket dimension. Once they figured that out, they had to gather all the data on what the heck is going on inside of there with all the people that they meet up, etc., etc. So yeah.
Yes. And we also figure out that that the 3 episodes that we've had so far aren't the 3 only episodes in the show.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is like the 3 episodes that are on Disney Plus are basically in-universe the only 3 episodes that the WandaVision in-universe television show has. Is that correct?
No.
No.
The 3 episodes that are on Disney Plus in-universe are only 3 out of multiple episodes.
Oh, okay.
The 3 episodes that we have on Disney Plus are the 3 more important ones.
Oh, okay.
Because as we see, while Darcy is watching the show when it's just in its 50s era, while she's watching the 50s episodes, we actually do see Geraldine in other 50s episodes. She's just not a speaking role.
Oh, okay.
She's not a speaking role until they get into the 60s era, where she then gets promoted to a speaking role and she becomes Geraldine. This is also when they start having like a montage of sorts where they start analyzing the actors in the show, and things like that. They start identifying the actors.
Yeah, I made a note for that as well because I found it very funny that I don't know if it was intentional or not on the director's part, but it's basically Sword right now with the television show is trying to dissect it, just like the audience is with the actual show.
Right.
So I've during that entire montage, I was like, these are the Marvel fans right now that are trying to piece together all the conspiracy theories on this show right now. I think their director is calling us out for this, gang.
Yep. However, if you look at the board, one person that they did not that they didn't really have a identification for, and that they didn't really like call out because she I'm gonna say the character Agnes. She is one of the more prominent characters in the show, in the in-universe show of WandaVision. She is one of the more prominent characters. She's the neighbor best friend. Yet, when it comes to identifying the characters and the people playing them, they don't mention Agnes. Which I find weird, because I would think that the most prominent character would be mentioned first, or like you would find her out first.
Yeah, the
but
supporting
they never
character.
Do.
Yeah, that is interesting.
So either it's just one of those things where like you have to look at the board where they have all the people like at the right moment, and maybe you'll see her, or that was intentional and she's actually not. She's just a mystery person.
We'll just have to see what comes up, because that's what I was thinking of, like the future. I'll mention it now, but I'll probably mention it again later. Like after this episode ends, we don't really know how it's gonna go off, if it's gonna continue along this road or just keep showing us what's happening inside the universe. But anyways, back to the the meme of Charlie Day with all the lines and the photographs. Is basically that scene right now.
Yeah. That and Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory. I don't need sleep. I need answers.
I don't need sleep. I need answers. Yeah. Here's another question that I need to ask. So basically, what you said of the in-universe episodes, they're basically like the 3 that we saw on Disney Plus are just significant episodes within the universe television, right?
Yes.
So my questioning is then, how long are the episodes and how many are there? Because we don't know how long this operation has been taking place.
They're probably the same length as a normal sitcom would, so roughly 30 minutes.
35 minutes?
Yeah. They're probably about the same length as a sitcom would. And I think they all follow basic sitcom plots that you would see back in those days.
But then it comes to the question of how many episodes in universe are there?
Yeah, because
because I don't know. We don't know how long this operation has been taking place in between when they first started and when they finally get Geraldine back. Well, Monica back.
So after this little montage, I'm sorry, I don't have answers for you. Those are just more questions that they leave unanswered.
No, I wasn't asking you specifically. I think these are just legitimate questions to ask about the universe.
Yeah.
So, so get those thinking caps on, audience.
Yes.
Now, while you're thinking, I want you to go over to your mouse, go over to our channel page right now, and click the red button that says subscribe.
And then click the little bell icon and manage your subscription notifications. But after this little montage of the missing persons and who they might be, and asking little questions like James is writing questions on the board like why is it a sitcom and stuff like that. Is Vision alive? Which I think is a very important question.
Vision's dead, guys.
Yeah, and they even flat out mentioned that in this, where Darcy sees Vision in the episode, and she's all like, "Wait, he's dead, right? Like, not just snapped, like dead."
Right.
And then they also asked the question of like, is Geraldine like playing along? Like, does she have to play along, or like something bad will happen? Things like that.
Right.
After this montage, Darcy then comes up with a little theory as to every time Wanda's washing dishes, which she says happens usually about once per episode, there's a radio on the counter. And she thinks that she could possibly intercept the radio signals coming from the radio and find a way to communicate to Wanda through the radio.
Right.
So then in the 60s episode, the second episode on Disney Plus,
episode 2. Yep.
They actually find that Geraldine is now that Monica has now been promoted to a speaking role. Where she's like talking about how nice Wanda's pants look and everything.
Right.
And how they're at a new location, being the clubhouse.
Right, the For the Children meeting.
Mm-hmm. And then that's when we get to the part where Wanda's picking up the dishes and everything, and Dottie's there, and they start talking.
Yeah, Dottie confronts Wanda back in episode 2. And then, if you guys recall back from episode 2, this is the the weird part where the radio started talking to Wanda.
Yep. And we find out the man behind the voice was Jimmy Woo.
Yes, it was Sword trying to interfere with the radio signals, like you said, and try to communicate with Wanda within the universe.
Yes. But as Darcy figures out while watching the episode as he's doing this, is the episode kind of glitches to after it happens.
Right.
It just cuts to Dottie saying, "You know how a housewife gets gets a blood stain out of white linen. She does it herself, or something like that."
Right. Yeah, I think that was the exact joke.
Yeah, they cut straight. It just cuts straight to that, and you don't see the radio part in the in-universe episode.
Right.
Which Darcy actually sees and is all like, "That's weird."
Because they are recording this via OBS, guys.
Mm-hmm.
They are recording all the episodes that are playing, and when Darcy goes back to look on in playback, they just lose the feed of that scene right there.
Yep.
And because it is entirely intentional. That's what I was thinking after this episode. I was thinking, like, all the times where episodes 1, 2, and 3 kind of got weird and glitchy, when it just kind of felt like off balance, you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, those were the... I don't know how exactly to describe it, but those are the off-script moments that didn't correlate with the premise of the in-universe show. And so the in-universe show wants to cut it out and basically say, no, go back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very much so. Now, another thing that I'm going to bring up is another thing that I found weird, like the Agnes situation, is that they didn't mention the choking scene in episode 1.
Yeah.
And so what I'm thinking is either that just in the in-universe episode that either just didn't happen, or Darcy was distracted with something else and she just didn't catch it.
Maybe.
Because Darcy during that episode was kind of like distracted and doing other things at once.
Yeah.
So we saw the part of the episode before the dinner scene happens, and then we saw right after when they leave.
Or another theory, it might be when they finally got the monitor for in-universe, they could have just... because now I'm thinking, because, like, remember the very end scene of episode 1, where it was someone was looking in the pocket universe with the television? That was that was the dinner choking episode. But I think what happened was Darcy literally just set up all of her TV stuff, and she literally just caught the end of that episode. Yeah, I could be wrong on that. I'd need to go back and check that out. But that's what I'm thinking right now.
But anyways, they tried contacting Wanda, and the show just was all like, "Nope."
Right.
Cut.
The show doesn't want to play that part because it's off script. It wants the in-universe show to keep on script.
Mm-hmm. And that's when we then cut back to the man in the sewers, as he's coming up the sewer grate into Westview, as he passes through the energy field. And as he's passing through, we see that his costume change happens where he's no longer in the radiation suit and he's now in a beekeeper outfit with bees around him. And the rope that they had as a tether on him turns into a kid's jump rope.
God, those are those are the worst jump ropes ever, for the record. Because they had those all the time in elementary school, and they're the cheap plastic that just like would hit it. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like those really cheap cylinders that just bead onto the rope. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's a candy cane jump rope. That's what it is.
It really is. Right now, actually, I missed the part. Right before this happened, someone brought an image of the sword drone, now turned into a sword toy helicopter of sorts.
Right.
They show it to Jimmy Woo, and he's all like, "Why did you color it?" I didn't.
Yeah, that toy helicopter was the drone that Monica had set into the pocket dimension earlier in the episode.
Yep, and that's when we get our first hint that when something goes into it, it changes to fit the, as Jimmy put it, production design of the time.
Right.
And so that's also why the man in the sewers, his outfit changes from a radiation suit, because those weren't as common and weren't as good back in those days. It changes it into the next best thing, which would be a beekeeper outfit. And so because of that, it has to fit that same aesthetic, so it creates bees. And because it's a rope, well, jump rope. There you go.
The candy cane jump rope, which is the absolute worst kind of jump rope you could have.
Honestly.
I might have a hateful passion towards them.
Mm-hmm. And then that's when we see the end of episode 2, where Wanda's just like, no.
Right. And then through the monitor that Darcy's looking through, as soon as Wanda says no, it just cuts right to the end credits of that particular episode.
Yeah. We don't even see the ending where Vision was like, we are in uncharted. We are like, he's talking about how like.
I don't even remember the end line for the proper.
I don't even remember the end line.
But yeah, that was 2 weeks ago, gang. Subscribe to our channel. But yeah, that's basically another example of the show. The Pocket Dimension show doesn't want things to go off script and just cuts that scene altogether.
Yeah. And then that's when they start showing episode 3. Disney Plus episode 3.
Yeah, if we're talking in universe, that could be considered season 3 of WandaVision.
Yeah. Where we're now in the 70s. And so now that we're in this episode, as if y'all watched last week's episode, which y'all better have.
Subscribe to our channel.
In that episode, that's when Wanda gives birth. And so so Darcy is watching this episode, the 70s episode, and it eventually gets to the point where Geraldine goes off script and mentions Pietro and Ultron.
Mm-hmm. And then Darcy and Jimmy recognize that as well.
Mm-hmm. And even Jimmy was like, have they ever done that before? Like, mention our universe? And she's all like, no.
And then what happened then, as in what happened on Darcy and Jimmy's point of view, as soon as they mentioned Ultron? Did the show just, like, cut back to Vision inside the show? I don't remember how exactly that went.
Well, kind of. What happened is, right as Wanda confronted Geraldine, saying like, "No, you should leave" and things. Like after Geraldine was like, "Oh, Wanda, don't be like that," and then she was all like, "Who are you?" Like, really? That's when it cuts to the end.
Huh. Okay.
For them, and then that's when they get the alarm that that the field has been breached, and then Geraldine comes flying through.
Yeah. Well, Monica now. We have to remember.
Yeah.
This
now Monica.
Right.
And so she sends her back to the real world. We then see it from Wanda's perspective in the show.
Yeah.
In the reality.
And yeah, and like I said, keep saying in these videos, subscribe to our channel. Pay attention to the aspect ratios, because I think that'll have a big, significant role within the show. And I was right, because when we head back into the 70s universe with Wanda and, quote, Geraldine, the aspect ratio is still 16:9. So, and then there's like a little bit later on in the episode, there's like a slight transition back into 4:3, but then it cuts to the credits, which is 16:9. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, the previous episodes that all of us have seen on Disney Plus so far have been in the 4:3 ratio, which also basically means we've been watching the show through the lens of, well, putting it, we've been watching it through Darcy's monitor, basically.
Yes.
Yes. So, and then when it cuts to 16:9, and we're still in the 70s show here, it's basically, this is this is reality. This is what's actually happening, and we're not viewing it through any sort of monitor or glitchy show. This is the real stuff that's happening.
Yes. And then that's when we see Wanda full on do her magic stuff and is like Hadouken. And she sends Geraldine flying through the wall of her house, through a fence, and just out of Westview.
Yep.
Which, how Vision did not notice this? Sitcom logic.
Remember, Vision's dead, guys. So...
Yeah. Which they actually bring back into importance, because then we cut to when Vision rushes in, not rushes inside, but comes back inside after Wanda does this to Geraldine, and Wanda actually fixes up the house again and everything before he comes in.
Right.
But Vision comes back in, and Wanda is facing away from him to start. And Vision, we see, is now actually like kind of in the shadows. So we can't really see him all that clearly. And then that's when Wanda turns around to face him, like she did in the episode, she doesn't see Vision, she sees dead Vision.
Yeah, which is really creepy, because seeing dead Vision
Honestly.
all decolorized and white-eyed, it's like a walking corpse, which is like emphasis on the corpse part.
Yeah. No, and I'm just gonna say right now, the makeup for that, spot on.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, you have, like, the hole in his head and everything where Thanos just ripped out the stone.
Right.
But, I mean, yes, you only see him for, like, a few seconds, but still, just, like, that few seconds was so impactful with that makeup.
Like, literally, I'm gonna find a JPEG of it and put it on the screen right now as we speak, because I can find that on the internet now.
Yeah.
But then, basically... Does the episode end just right then and there?
No. She then looks away, looks back. He's now back in his color in a live state. And he's all like, Wanda, we should, like, get out of here. You know, go away. Live somewhere else. And she's like, no. This is our home now. I have everything under control. And then we cut... And then that's when episode 3 ends. Like the 70s episode ends right then and there. But then we cut back to the real world, and Geraldine, now Monica, gets thrown out. And she's like breathing heavily because, you know, she's just been thrown through a wall.
Right.
And then thrown through a force field, and they're all like around her and everything. And then all she says is, "It's Wanda. It's all Wanda."
Right. So.
And then it ends.
All right. So now I'm gonna give you the spotlight for because you mentioned this last week, but I didn't put it in the podcast itself. But I want you to explain right now what you had theorized a week ago, and basically why WandaVision episode 4 just confirmed that.
Yes. And that is this. I am going to probably sound a little bit like a conspiracy theorist. Just a little bit. Because there's still more episodes to come. Who knows what could happen. The show could take a whole U-turn for all we know. But as of right now, the way it looks like it's going is that the protagonist of the show, I believe, is Vision. Because Vision seems to be more in a protagonist role. I mean, obviously, we do have the two main characters of Wanda and Vision. But it mainly is Vision's story of him trying to unravel the reality that he's in as he tries to figure out like what's actually going on around him. And I do believe that we have an antagonist in this show. And I believe that the antagonist of this show, the one and only Wanda. The reason why is because she is doing all that she can to stop the protagonist by any means necessary. Sure, it's not an actual physical fight or anything like that, but she's using her powers to stop Vision from finding out where he is and what state he's in. And so she does this by casting amnesia on the surrounding state, by trapping the individuals inside the town and making them play along, and by even casting out Geraldine after she intruded in her reality. And so that is why I believe that Wanda is the antagonist to the show and why Vision is the protagonist. For the most part.
Alrighty.
That is what I believe. And unless this show decides to do a full U-turn, which
it might, it's always open to doing like a 180. But I think why you're correct as of right now is because Monica did say that the entire thing was Wanda's doing. That was the closing line of episode 4, which I think confirms that theory.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is pretty interesting. Like you had been saying, like the reason why. Well, actually, did you say why Wanda would want to keep? Why Wanda made this pocket dimension in the first place?
So I believe that the reason why, this probably is why she made it in the first place. But I believe the reason why she made this reality in the first place is a way to keep Vision alive as much as possible. Sure, he's still not completely the real Vision, but she's at least able to live out a life with him and have a family with him because that's all she wanted.
Right.
And so because she wants to keep that and not... It's almost like she doesn't want to accept the reality that he's dead.
Vision's dead, guys. Yeah, because... Because if you're right, this is kind of like the life that she had always kind of wanted to live with Vision if she had that opportunity to. But, Thanos killed Vision.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and so she can never live out that life.
Right. And so basically she's trying to live out this fictional life within the realm of a TV sitcom in this pocket dimension. And, yeah. And so if there's any interference whatsoever, which we have seen with the last 3 episodes, she basically just says no to that. She literally did in episode 2 and basically continues on with the script. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I think there's a theme to this, guys. It's fictitious. That's what it is. She's living a fictitious world right now, and she doesn't want anyone to mess with her fictitious world.
Mm-hmm.
Theme.
That's why the Doctor couldn't escape to Bermuda in the 3rd episode, and that's why all these when all these strange occurrences happen, something always interferes with it, or something makes it to where oh, that just didn't happen.
Right, and looking at it thematically, if we still end up being correct by the end of the show, thematically, it's kind of like. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but it's kind of like all these, little kids, how they like to live in their own fantasy world, and then they get upset whenever, reality strikes them in the head, right?
Yeah.
It's basically what's happening here in the show.
Essentially.
Yeah, but since Wanda has the power over her fiction, she can literally say no to that and just keep living her fictitious world. Which is basically what little kids like to do, or intolerant little B words, or or politicians, yeah. Yeah, I think there's a definite theme right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
I can definitely see it.
Yeah. What now? Because this is basically where the end of the episode happens.
Yeah, that's basically it. There's still no end credit scenes, which
post credit scenes, right?
Those.
Yeah, maybe the very last episode, for a teaser of season 2, but yeah. But I guess going from this episode, we don't really know what's gonna happen next in episode 5 if we're gonna continue with viewing the fictional television show through Darcy's monitor, or if we're going to be jumping back and forth between the two dimensions to see Sword's attempts to get Wanda out. Or like, yeah, that's another question. What is the end goal here now? Because like I've been saying in the previous two podcasts, subscribe to our channel. I've been saying that like we know the what of the questions that we're asking. We know what it is. Now the other questions are why and how. And I think this episode 4, basically just described why and how. But now that since we've seen this in episode 4, we've still got 5 episodes left. So what exactly are we trying to figure out here now? What is the end goal here? What is the objective here now?
Based on what we've gathered so far, is that they have 2 main goals at hand. One, to save the people that have been trapped in Wanda's reality. And 2, save Wanda from herself.
Okay.
Because again, because back when Darcy mentioned the radiation that's being that's radiating off of the energy field, they have to find a way to stop that energy field from doing that. And so the only way really that you can do that is by stopping the source of it, which the source of it is Wanda. So they basically have to find a way to stop Wanda from living in this reality. Some way, somehow.
Fictitious reality.
Yeah. That's probably their main goal, is to just find a way to save the people in Westview.
Okay, then. Yeah, because that's a question that I had coming out of this episode in particular. Because this episode didn't follow that formula that I had established in the first episode. Was that basically, like, the individual episodes are basically going to have their own subplots until the final episodes where we'll get to the climax of the overarching episode of the season. But this episode kind of broke that formula by kind of going back in time and reliving the episodes in a sense from a different point of view. And basically just gave us the answers as to why and how this is all happening.
Yeah. Again, we got the answers behind why things happened in the first 3 episodes, but it left.
Yeah, but the thing
many
is,
more questions.
But the thing is, it happened in episode 4, and so if you it might be a problem if they don't follow up with this in next week's episode, because now that they've shown the why and how in episode 4 and not like 8 or 9, how exactly are they going to continue this formula?
Yeah. I mean, there's who knows what they have planned.
Right. So
they could do anything, basically.
Yeah, so basically it's kind of left us on a cliffhanger in this episode, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
very much so.
Yeah, I know I just said we figured out why and how, but we still don't know why and how. To other aspects of the show. What would you like to see? Would you like to see us looking through the show back through Darcy's monitor again, just for a couple of episodes, then come back to the Sword perspective? Or would you like seeing like both of them going back and forth in each episode until they get to the overarching climax?
I think what I would like and what I think they might do is go back into the monitor perspective for the next maybe episode or 2, and then cut back to the Sword perspective and just do a pattern of sorts throughout the season, where we get a few episodes in the monitor perspective of watching the show of WandaVision, and then it cuts back to Sword and we get some answers to the questions that were in there.
Right.
That's what I think. That's what I would like, and that's what I think they might do. But again, we just don't know.
They might do it. I mean, I don't want to sound pessimistic right now, but if they did it this early on in the season, it might bite them in the ass later on. But
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows? This episode really did leave us off on a cliffhanger. It's so weird with this episode because this basically answered questions for us, but also left questions for us to wait on.
Honestly.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just have to see next week. So please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel so you can get updates on our WandaVision season 1 episode podcast, review and synopsis podcast. Hit that bell to get notifications of when we make uploads. And also check out WandaVision if you still haven't watched it already. I don't know why you're still here. Keep listening to us talk about WandaVision if you haven't watched the episode yourself. Come on, guys. But you
Go
can
watch the show. It's not that hard.
Exactly. So go check out WandaVision streaming exclusively on Disney Plus. Do you have anything more to say, Bryan?
No, you summed it all up perfectly. Just remember, Vision's dead.
Vision's dead, guys. And I'll leave it off of there. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourselves a fantastic night and take care.